What up, what up, what up? Whoa, the echo. Gotta turn that off. At least I know my mic is working. How's it going, everybody? We got Zoltar, DZ, Victor, Joey, of course, Jabroni, a bunch of guys saying GM. That must mean they're all over the world. John, Justin, Wick. John, not to be confused with John Wick or Justin Wick, John Wick's cousin. Okay. Lorenzo from the UK, what's up? Paul with a W. I like that. I've never seen that spelling before. What's up, Null? So we got some interesting stuff. First being probably the most important for crypto people is the Ledger Live. I don't even know what to call this. Code compromise. If you're on chain, you just have to realize there is an unknowable risk surface. There is an infinite attack surface. There are so many things that could go wrong at any given time. That's not to scare you. That's just to say, look, don't put your life savings in MetaMask, okay? I know people are going to do that anyway. That's fine. People have done it for years and have done fine. This is just protecting yourself from yourself. Segregate your wallets. Put your trading stack in one place and your cold wallet in another. It can't be said enough how easily this stuff can get drained. So what happened was some code was pushed live through the Ledger GitHub or something, the hardware wallet. And that ended up affecting any app in the DeFi ecosystem, which is terrifying. So it wasn't just, you could have said to yourself correctly, I think, I'm not going to touch a Ledger hardware wallet. I don't care about it. I want nothing to do with it, right? That didn't matter. Okay, so again, you got to be careful. Nobody would have known unless somebody brought this up, right? But you just don't have any way of knowing. Not everyone's checking every piece of code every second of every day, right? So luckily this got caught quickly and has been fixed. But if you haven't refreshed your cache or are using an older version of MetaMask portfolio, there's all sorts of little things that could be an issue still. For the most part, I think it's been fixed. But, this is the bigger problem, that a dev clicked the wrong link and code was compromised, and then all of a sudden the front end of DeFi has a problem. That's an issue. That's systemic risk, I think. Again, that's not to say I use DeFi. I love DeFi. DeFi is great, but you just have to know what you're doing, and you have to know what the risks are, because if you're not careful, you're just going to get rugged randomly, right? So you just have to be super careful about how much you trust with any of these protocols and how much money you trust on the protocols, that sort of thing. I don't know who the code reviewer that would approved it. That's the thing. I think it got automatically. I don't know if I have the tweet. Yeah. So the code is hot loaded, which I think means there isn't a reviewer. I could be wrong. I don't know enough about GitHub and the back end and all that sort of fun stuff. But so yes, DeFi is fun and great. I love DeFi. The protocols are great. You just have to be careful, right? So I don't think there was any way of knowing that this was even live unless you are looking at the code, right? And most people don't, including myself. You just have to be careful. Now we've had some other, in the ETF news, we've had some continued uncomfortable looking Gary Gensler on media appearances being asked about the ETFs. Not the crazy thing, but the interesting part is, I think most of us agree with Gary in that, at least I do, most of crypto is nonsense, okay? That's the weird part about the no coiner stuff is I think most people can agree that a lot of this stuff is just silly nonsense that shouldn't be allowed. But there's the libertarian in all of us that's just just let it be, man. Just let it go, right? When it comes to money and KYC and all that other stuff, we can't exactly have that completely running amok. You know, we've seen what's happened, right? We've seen what's happened going back for years now. Anyway, everybody wants to see custody and exchanges segregated. I think we want them apart, and he mentions that here. So it's going to be interesting if the Coinbase stuff gets approved, because there's inherent issues with how that functions on the ETF side. Anyway, it's just a lot of little stuff that, like, we don't exactly in the crypto sphere have all of these things, all these ducks in a row to do it how they do in the institutional world. That isn't to say we can't. It's just difficult, right? There are layers and layers to prevent fraud in the institutional world. There was another interview on Bloomberg where he's basically like, Gary's basically like, you know, we just did this thing in the $26 trillion treasury market. You want to talk about crypto? It's like, bro, just answer the question. Like, we get it. You hate crypto. You want nothing to do with it. But I'd say this is a pretty newsworthy topic lately, right? Anyway, I'll leave the links in the description of the video. The other thing about the ETFs, there's been a lot of conversation about cash creates versus in-kind redemptions, withdrawals. This goes back to the custody issue, broker-dealer, the institutional side, like who can handle what and why and how things are functioning in the pipes on the back end of an ETF. This guy, Northrock LP, makes a good point about Grayscale worth considering. I don't think anybody needs to do anything now. I don't think there's any action that needs to be taken. It's just drawing your own personal decision tree and what you want to do if this, then that, right? If Grayscale gets approved, but it's only cash, maybe that's actually better for the ecosystem because less people are likely to cash out. There's this entirely like weed-sized decision tree, okay, that says if the entirety of the trust is open, then you're going to see a ton of redemptions. You're going to see a ton of selling pressure on the spot side. So as terrible as this is for the people in GBTC, and as beneficial as this is for Grayscale, unfortunately still, right, if they only have cash converts because of the tax implications, that would likely mean more BTC would remain in the trust. So I think you have to think about it from a couple different angles, or just ignore it all entirely, right? Most people could care less. Most people just want this thing to come and be done with it, including myself. I'd be much happier not having to think about ETFs for a good long while. But Balchunas explains the differences here for people who have no clue what I'm talking about here. I'll leave this in the description of the video as well. But it's just worth knowing how this stuff actually functions on the back end, because then you have a better sense of the flows, you have a better sense of the fees for these products, the appetite for these products. In kind would probably be best for everybody. Just means, BTC versus cash. And the reason they being the analysts, think it's going to be cash only, in the beginning at least, is because the applications have more and more lately mentioned this cash create system versus in kind. So is this going to affect price? Maybe based on the flows and the fees? I don't know. I don't want Grayscale to win at this point. They've been such a bad actor. That's just me. That's just my own bias, okay? And to see them weasel their way into something, I don't know. Like, are they going to say we don't want to be approved if it's not going to be in kind? I don't know if they'd go that far. Anyway, just me thinking about things I shouldn't care about, but do. Just something to consider, right? Yes, the training gloves are on. These are actually, so they're for people with Raynaud's, which is like poor blood flow to your extremities. I think like elderly women with a smoking history typically get Raynaud's, but I don't know. I must have something with my circulatory system. My hands are always freezing. That's why the trading gloves. That's why I'm wearing trading gloves. What happens if the ETF gets delayed? As a trader, I don't care, right? Eventually we will get an ETF. Eventually halving is going to happen. I could care less, honestly, at this point. Like as a tradable event, I think it's going to be super fun. I think it's going to be super volatile that first week of January. Um, Gary Gensler isn't going to be the chairman forever of the SEC, right? Even if they deny it, which I don't think they will, based on the court rulings. But yeah, that's part of the decision tree too, right? Like, what happens if they don't approve it? What do you do, right? Just have a plan. Most people, again, would be beneficial if they just don't do anything, including the announcement. I think it's going to be super volatile day. It's going to be like plus minus 10% on the day. I don't know. It's going to be wild. There's probably going to be a massive wick. We're probably going to spend the next 4 to 6 months after that repairing the chart into post-halving. And then all the conversation and the focus is going to be on the flows into these ETFs. If the flows are XYZ, right, that's a whole nother decision tree. If we have these massive inflows early versus in and around halving, all things to consider. That's after it's approved, but something to think about, like if the flows are bad, if the bears were right that these products don't matter, then what happens to price? If price is being pushed up solely on ETF hype and hopium, and we don't actually get any follow through, what happens? I don't think that's going to happen, to be clear. I think we're going to see tons of flows, but it's something to consider, right? Something to consider. Just reading chat here. Is MetaMask portfolio different from MetaMask? I do believe so. I do believe MetaMask portfolio is different. They also came out with an update that said it's like 2 dot something dot something. I don't know. Check their Twitter. They would have up-to-date information on that. So yeah, make sure all your stuff's updated. Make sure everything's not running on a previous browser cache version, blah, blah, blah. So that's kind of been the big thing this week. More incremental ETF stuff. I think Bitwise has their DTCC ticker listing. I think some other product did. Anyway, we're getting closer, right? But at this point, for me, as a market participant, I don't really care about the minutia of it all. Just approve it or don't, whatever, right? It's interesting to see the bureaucracy in motion as we get closer. More of these product companies are meeting with the SEC behind the scenes to get things straightened away. So that's a good sign. I don't think they would go through all this effort to just deny these products, right? That's just me. Anyway, the other big thing obviously is the Fed. So this week, Jay Powell came out and said, effectively, the hikes are done. And we've talked about cutting next year. That's what he said. So the market loved that. Obviously, it's been risk on rally ever since. The market's pricing in way more cuts than the Fed is expecting based on their brainstorm of economic projections. I call it brainstorm because it doesn't have to follow anything. It's just some sort of forward guidance mechanism for everyone who relies on this stuff for their decision-making process. But this is the market pricing in deep cuts the entirety of the year. So from this emerges another decision tree, right? We can look at historical precedents for what happened to markets when there are cuts based on strength, based on weakness, how long till a recession when the Fed cuts, what does the yield curve look like, right? We can look at all these things, look at the unemployment. For me, yeah, like it's fun and interesting and we can analyze it. I don't think the economy is as bad as it seems based on the data. I don't think the data is as fake as people say it is. The anecdata, just like going out and seeing the world, going to restaurants full, airplanes full, right? That's my part of the world, so it's not everybody, to be clear. But anyway, markets absolutely loved what Powell had to say. So we're seeing DXY decline significantly. We're seeing rates come way down on the long end. All good things for risk, all good things for crypto, for Bitcoin. It's lining up for positivity towards the halving if you're one of these people that believes the halving matters for price and it's not priced in, which I don't think it is. That's a whole nother conversation. What happens this cycle, right? Something else to think about. Big questions. That's why we're here. That's why you come to this very stream every week for big questions and big thoughts. If this, then that. If flows are X pre-post halving, what does that mean for price? What does it mean that we have an ETF this cycle, if we get one, assuming we do? Post halving, we've never had inflows. Does that mean we have a bigger cycle? Does that mean we have a more muted cycle? Does that mean we don't have a cycle at all? Something to think about, right? A lot of people are talking about this very thing, what to expect. I prefer to just look at the chart, and the chart sort of informs my decision on that. But it's important to think about what happens if nothing happens, right? Does everybody just lose their religion and say, okay, this wasn't for me? I don't think so. Something to think about, though. We've also got the GOX stuff still, something I'm just sick of thinking about at this point. The GOX coins to be unloaded, which is a tiny sliver compared to the grayscale stuff. So I think the grayscale stuff is way more important than the GOX coins, but I think the market is so much more focused on the GOX coins. They should have been released 10 years ago, right? But it's over 10 years out now. And they still haven't released them. Haven't seen any wallet movements there, but just another way of thinking about flows and selling pressure and coins coming to market, that sort of thing. All right, that's enough news. We'll take a look at charts here. I put up a little sidebar. I'm bad at getting to the bookmarks for the stream like in time for most people. So we'll see if this can live on the screen. Just as a list for people. I thought I'd start with yields. Not that most people in crypto care about yields, but the long end, what is even the term? Multi-year yields? I don't know. The long end, whatever. It's coming way down, right? Way down super, super quickly. The short end is also coming down-ish, right? A little bit. But the big thing is the yield curve. And not this one. Let's do the 10 and 2. Typically, people look at the 10 and 2. Typically, you want to get paid for your duration. So this is atypical currently in the sense that the shorter yields are holding a higher rate than the long yields. The other reason this is important is because historically when this uninverts, that's when we get our recession. So yes, we are building towards some sort of recession. I think that's undeniable. The question is, what do you do in this limbo period, right? Everybody knows what's coming. The rapture is coming, okay? Everybody knows that. But we can't predict necessarily the degree. We can't predict the government's response to the recession. We can't predict which sectors, I think there's a lot of things we can't predict. I think it's easy to say, yes, something's going to happen here because it always has for the most part. So, I don't know how to read this in market activity for yourself. Like, what do I do? Do I just hide from the market risk? I don't think so. So Walt makes a good point, which we've seen, I think, already. I've watched about 50 different commentators over the course of this week talking about yields. Some people saying that the 6 trillion in money markets probably doesn't go into risk. It probably goes into higher duration yields, which I guess is possible, for people who want to lock in those yields. The other alternative is, they go into risk, right? Which is kind of what we're seeing as far as the risk on rally. S&P, Q's down a little bit today. IWM, the low caps enjoying some relief because they were the most rate sensitive businesses, right? Banks, I expect, what is KRE? I expect KRE to be roofing. If this works, yeah, KRE up 4%. A bunch of banks up 5 to 20% today. So banks doing really well. Anyway, yield curve still inverted. I don't think it's super duper important. In the nearest of sense, I think we can rally on. I don't think there's a big issue here personally. So that's good news for crypto. As far as DXY is concerned, DXY has gotten absolutely slaughtered. I gotta find the right. There we go. So just on its face, not knowing what this is, and this is something everybody can do, especially in crypto, because we have 10,000 different coins. Just look at the chart, right? Even without anything. Does this look bullish or bearish to you? And you should know within seconds, right? It shouldn't be, I don't really know, this could be a thing. If that's the case, then there's no clear direction, right? To me, seeing these heavy bearish candlesticks, obviously I know what this is and I'm biased because I want it to be bearish, but it looks bearish. It does. We're at a key level of 100-ish. We are losing the daily cloud. The daily cloud's flipping bearish. All this is exactly what we want to see coming into a potential bullish period for Bitcoin. If we look at historical periods for the DXY relative to Bitcoin halving, the past 2 halvings we've seen death for the DXY, okay? 100 to 90. So we are setting ourselves up again for a similar path on the DXY from 100 to 90. So that's good. That's what we want to see. Whether that's recession, whether that's stimmies, I don't care. I don't care what it ends up being. The technicals point to bearishness, which is what you want to see. The weekly also bearish. So daily and weekly are bearish. That's good. There was some question whether or not this would actually break down at around 106, and it clearly has in a big way. So that's good. We have a tailwind in that sense. We have a tailwind as far as liquidity with reverse repo. We're still draining that a little bit. So these are all good things in the moment for risk and for crypto. And I said this on yesterday's altcoin video, but if we're actually going to all-time highs on the legacy side, it's going to be very difficult to be bearish on the crypto side. So even though I don't trade this directly, S&P, right? You got to have some sense of what's going on. And people have been very bearish and are still bearish. That's okay, right? But how do you trade that? How do you trade that data? You put in 10,000 data points and then what do you do? My argument is that, look, we can ignore 9,999 data points and just look at the chart. That tells me plenty. I don't need to know anything else. I kind of said this. I said this at the end of 2022 when we were printing this inverted head and shoulders fractal. I said, I don't know why the market would go up, but that's what it looks like it wants to do. And it's kind of the same thing now. Like now it makes a little more sense why we're going up based on non-chart stuff, but this still looks great. This looks like all sorts of bullish things, right? I can't point to anything specifically. You can probably say bear div on daily RSI. You can make something up about PE multiple. I don't know, like that's way beyond the scope of what I care about, but I like the bears are still bearish and I like the bears are kind of doubling down. Q's hit an all-time high, right? Ish, close. I don't think they, Maybe not on a weekly close all-time high, but definitely daily. Anyway, point is, like, look, we could stall here. Sure. Odds are we'll probably keep going. Odds are we're probably fine. So I like crypto in that regard. We look good. This is what we want to see. So I don't think anybody's specifically bearish crypto, but I'm just saying, like, this is what we want to see. If we want to be bullish, this is what we want to see. Somebody asked me about gold. I don't have anything to say on it. It's good that it bounced above 2,000 again. Probably because real rates came down. But I don't have anything specific to say on this. I mean, it looks fine. Looks as good as it's looked, right? It's put in a pretty ugly weekly and monthly. But it looks fine. I just don't know why you'd even bother trading that. I think it's probably for most people a buy and hold situation, but anyway, silver also kind of has the same, like, I wouldn't call it a cup and handle. I wouldn't call it a continuation fractal. I don't know what this is. Maybe inverted head and shoulders or something. Like, it looks okay. It's a hot mess, but it looks okay, you know? I just don't see why you trade this stuff. I just think there's so many easier things to trade, you know? I don't know. That's just me. Joey says we need the bears when everyone is bullish at the same time. Usually sell-offs happen. Yeah, no, we definitely need the bears. Don't get me wrong. I love the bears. I love that they're still bearish. I love that people still have doubts about everything. I love it. Okay. What I'm not seeing sentiment-wise is everybody on one side of this thinking, this is the one, right? I don't quite see that, at least in my timeline. Anyway, so things are good. Things are good on the risk side. And that's what we're seeing in crypto. What else do I have on this list? DXY, SPX, NASDAQ. Yeah, I mean, we can look at Mag 7. Mag 7 has actually quieted down a little bit, which it's funny. The bears were bearish on the lack of breadth in the market, as in it was so concentrated. And now the bears are bearish because the Mag 7 is lagging everything else. So I don't know. You can't win. I don't know what they expect. I don't know. It's hard for me to take those people seriously, but I guess we can go through this one by one. Not that people are here for crypto or for non-crypto stuff, but Microsoft all-time high. You're kind of going to see a cup and handle in all this because that's where we're at in the index. This is Microsoft, sorry, breaking down. That was Apple previously, cup and handle. NVIDIA, defying gravity, just crazy, still staying up there. Google looks fine-ish, right? I don't think there's anything to trade yet on any of this stuff other than Amazon. I like highs on everything. So I like 138 on Google. I like, I like 378 on Microsoft, whatever. Tesla, I would just never think about personally. The cloud just says it's ranging, but you could probably read that as some sort of megaphone, descending broadening wedge. Facebook looks fine, right? Bullish continuation, most likely. It's above the cloud. Looks okay. Netflix. Also, you may have feelings about Netflix, including myself, but the cloud loves it. It's above the weekly cloud. It's a weekly twist there. Looks fine. There's some flavor of cup and handle and or something here that's bullish. I don't see anything bearish, right? But for me, I really like Amazon. Above a yearly pivot. Inverted head and shoulders. Above the weekly cloud, weekly Kumo twist coming up. I don't know. All this looks really good to me. So to me, Amazon looks the best as far as a trade in the Mag 7. I also really like a few others. Square also looks good to me. But at this point, it's hard. This thing is up how much in, what is this? 86% in like 8 weeks, 7 weeks, 6 weeks. I don't know. I like the cloud setup, clearly. I like that they're crypto adjacent. I like that they have a Bitcoin treasury. These are all good things if you're bullish crypto, right? I don't know where to get into this chart, into this trade. 70s, I guess. I don't know. Like, I like buying strength, but this is a lot of strength, So maybe this ranges a little bit. I don't know. I don't know what to do with this exactly as far as an entry, but it still looks worthy of thinking about. This is one that this is something that I looked at for a while, a long time ago, and just forgot about. But this is the type of chart that I don't care what it is, right? This is the thing I like trading because it's got a massive edge-to-edge potential. It's sat at lows for a year. It's a trash business. It's trash social media. I get it, but you could say the same thing about any altcoin. Another one probably worth paying attention to, PayPal. As much as, again, that's another like maybe company that is a dinosaur at this point. Something worth thinking about. Massive cloud there, obviously. How's Shopify looking? It's already probably too late. Anyway, the point is anything that has a decent setup that hasn't moved yet, I really like. The opposite of that is SMH, which to me, again, looks like a massive cup and handle. This is a semiconductor ETF. And even if you don't trade this stuff, it's worth taking a gander at what's out there in the flavors of the market, because you may see things that are easier to trade than, Curve or something, right? This is at an all-time high, I believe, right? Cup and handle, bullish cloud breakout, all the fun stuff we like on the crypto side. This looks really good to me. And before we switch to crypto, let me just talk about TLT real quick. TLT on the daily legacy cloud, you're getting a massive runaway Kumo breakout, right? I kind of said earlier this week that I'd probably wait. I would never trade this or touch this, but I would probably wait for a bullish Kumo twist on the daily. At this point, this chart just got away from you based on news and changes in the ecosystem effectively, right? But this chart looks great. I don't think there was a weekly, not really a weekly edge to edge. I don't know. I know a lot of people are trading this and doing well, so that's good. Anyway, so that's legacy. Yeah, Amazon looks good. Tesla, I kind of mentioned, we can go back to it for a second, but it's still kind of in this downward channel. It's trying to fight that on the daily. It probably looks the best it's looked today relative to any point up until the local high, just because it's on the top side of that descending channel. But if everything continues to break out, sure, 500 for Tesla. Why not? I don't like the business. I don't like Elon, but why not? What does it matter? Nobody cares what I care. Anyway, I think that's the list, right? I don't think there's anything else. Let's talk about crypto equities while we're here. Tons and tons of people trading coin. Tons and tons of people making money on coin, which I love to see, love to hear. The chart still looks great to me. It still looks crazy bullish. You've still got ARK rotating out of their coin positions based on allocation caps in the ETFs, which is probably better. It's probably better that they don't have to sell this at like 220, right? And that they're selling it on the way up. It's just annoying and dumb because what they're buying is just trash, in my opinion. Anyway, if you are a believer in the cycle, then I don't even think you care about price. I don't think you care about price until all the ETFs are live and we see the flows, right? again, this goes back to the decision tree. The TA has a level, it's 200, right? It's 156, it's 185, 200 on the cloud, 214 on the horizontal. There are levels here. Maybe it stalls out. Maybe all this ETF revenue volume is getting priced in. Maybe the base layer 2 volume revenue is getting priced in. But if you are a believer that we're going to have a cycle around the halving and it's going to be bullish, I don't think, I think you just wait that out. You just let this run. The alternative thought to that is at some point, coin relative to Bitcoin doesn't make sense on a relative value basis. And it's probably running hard now because we don't have an ETF. So it may actually slow down after the ETF. Again, I don't know what's going to happen, obviously, but it's just something to think about. If we look at coin BTC, right? So like if coin is running hot because there isn't an ETF, but also because there's an expectation that you're going to get 9 ETFs using Coinbase as a custodian, how does that even out price-wise? I don't know. Something to think about. This chart, to me, looks very bullish coin because you're getting a triple bottom, right? Quad bottom, whatever. Like the ratio doesn't really matter, the exact number. For me, I'm just looking at relative value. Would I personally buy coin over spot? I wouldn't, but this looks like coin's ready to break out relative to spot if I was just trading the TA. Anyway. So something to think about. Again, that's why you're here. That's why we go over this every Thursday at 2 p.m. EST. But look, the chart looks great. I don't think there's anything to do. I don't think there's like a need to do anything. You're going to see a pullback eventually, right? It's going to be ugly, whatever. Who cares? I don't care about it personally. I don't have a massive coin position. I have some, but I don't have a massive coin position. DZ asks, what is ARK buying instead? Now that is an interesting question because I just looked at that today. And, look, I am not a legacy analyst, okay? But if you go to kathysark.com, you can see the trades. And we can go, let's go combined. So these are all the ARK ETFs. Some of them have different, mandates. Some of them do different things. So you got to keep that in mind as far as what their objectives are. But some of this stuff, I just don't know. Just because I've not heard of it doesn't mean it's not going to be a major success. But there's a lot of CRISPR stuff, a lot of biomedical stuff. I don't know, right? I just don't know. Who am I? I'm not one to judge, but when you're selling a massive winner for some coin flip stuff, I don't know. I don't know about that. But again, they have to do this because of the allocation caps in the prospectus. That's my assumption, right? So the weight of Coinbase is exceeding the limit that's acceptable in the total basket. To me, that says there's a problem with your basket, right? But this is how they have it set up. So that's kind of, they're taking profits on the way up. Totally fine. I get it. I just think what they're rotating into is nonsense. And it's especially punishing right now because Coinbase is so much stronger, or has been, than most of this basket, right? Like, what is some of this stuff? I don't know. I don't know. I just don't know. Anyway, so Kathy also, by the way, ARK was also selling GBTC at some point. I don't think they've sold this week, but something else to consider, right? Overall, it looks great. I like highs. I like pullbacks. I like everything. I don't think this chart tells you much from a cycle perspective because honestly, we haven't seen Coinbase in a bull cycle, right? They launched at the top of the last cycle. So we'll see what happens in a bull cycle. I think there are some boomers who would rather buy this than Bitcoin. And one observation I made was these charts, where is it? Percentage, maybe? Yeah. So if we go to like a year-to-date coin chart versus Bitcoin, the price movements were kind of like in lockstep a little bit. Like coin was kind of outperforming a little bit. But what really made the difference was when the BlackRock spot ETF announcement was released for the application. I think that's when this stuff started to really take off, right? I don't even think we knew who the custodian would be at that point. It was just people looking for exposure, and this was one way to do it. So again, the question is this going to slow down? Is this, is this alligator jaw going to slow down or close once we have an ETF? Because coin may be perceived as overvalued or something. I don't know. Something to think about. So yeah, coin looks good. What else we got? Miners, man, some of the miners have just been insane lately. Absolutely insane. This is the miner basket ETF. It has done really, really well lately. It did really well earlier in the year. That pulled all the way back. Just a brutal Eiffel Tower craziness, right? The daily edge to edge is complete there. The weekly edge to edge, you'd have to go to like Marathon, right? Marathon still looks phenomenal to me. Again, 5 seconds max. If you don't recognize what this might be, it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm just saying, look, it's probably going to act like this. It looks super bullish. Still, at 17, right? It's had a crazy couple weeks. Still looks bullish to me. I don't like miners. I don't like miners post-halving, but the bigger miners should win. I don't know. There's a lot of like variables here for miners to think about. But if you're just trading the chart, this looks really good. CleanSpark's another one that's just absolutely been ripping over the past couple weeks. Again, another weekly cloud special there. Super clean from a outside of a downtrend into the cloud perspective. It's been a hot mess. I think this was a SPAC too, right? So all this, I don't know when the crypto part actually got connected. Anyway, but this looks great, right? Looks great. Yeah, exactly, Joey. So Joey's saying coin outperformed BTC because bigger money has easier access to coin. 100%. Zero doubt in my mind. Would you want to deal with custody and security and all that other stuff, or just buy coin, right? It's much easier for most people with money, pockets and pockets and gobs of money, to just buy coin, to buy the miners, right? That's why I think the miners have done so well. So based on that, we'll see how this ETF works out, but I think it's going to be pretty great. Pretty great. Anyway, so all the miners look good. As far as like where do you take profit on this stuff, I don't know. I think it's tough. Part of me is like, you know what, just let it rip, just hold on to it. The other part of me's kind of saying post-halving miners are going to just get walloped. If you wanted to, you could just measure this, right? Take the high, take the low. This is just WGMI, like WGMI to 26. Maybe. Again, we haven't seen a bull market for this chart either. So we'll see. Now, Marathon we have seen a bull market for, right? I think they were public back in, I think they were the longest. Anyway, the miners should do well. Historically, they have. The difference maker is going to be the ETF. Would you rather own an ETF or a company? Right? I think that's what people are going to be thinking about. Anyway, all right, let's talk about GBTC and ETH. GBTC kind of the same in that it's, what's the next trade? That's always what I'm thinking about. What's the next thing to do here? Is there anything to do here? If you don't already own this, I don't know why you would buy it. I guess because you're looking at the discount. Again, I'm trying to think like, who's here? Who's going to sell? Who's going to buy? Why would anybody want this thing, right? The fees are insane. The discount is down to 9%. The technicals tell you this trade is much like spot, right? There's not really anything to do up here just yet. Cloud is flipping bullish. Would I buy this up here? No, I wouldn't. But, I bought it much lower, so I don't care. The real question is, how much do you close? How much do you close up here? Not financial advice. If you wanted to close, and I think this is just going to be news related and or January related for tax purposes. So I don't know. There's so many variables here. Do they get approved? Do they go to in kind? Do they wait to go in kind? Do they get cash redemptions only? What are the fees, right? If the fees are X% higher than BlackRock, do more people cash out? If the fees are the same as BlackRock, do more people cash out? Just things to think about. From a trade perspective, I think January 1st, I'm just getting rid of the entire position regardless. The discount could go to a premium on the day, right? I don't know. Do I think it'll be a sustained premium? No, I don't think it will be. But again, there's a lot of news related variables to think about. I don't think most of them are bearish, but it's worth just thinking about. ETH still has quite a big discount. It still working its way through the weekly cloud. Looks fine. You could hold this stuff indefinitely and do nothing, and I think you'd be okay. It's just you're risking maybe not getting approved and what that means for the product. Like, does this product sell off if they don't get approved? I don't know. Does it matter on the day? Might not matter on the day. All this stuff might just go crazy on the day. So just something to think about. The target for ETH would be 26, but this discount has closed pretty considerably. The market is pricing in an approval and a conversion based on the discount. If the GBTC product doesn't get approved on the day, I think the discounts blow out. I think they go lower. I do. Anyway, we'll just see. I don't know. I have no idea. Massive variables there. Chart-wise, this looks okay. I don't think there's anything else to do here, Anyway. NFT taxes, US-based, asking for a friend. Yeah, that's a great question for an accountant, CPA, right? I can't really answer that other than you're going to have to pay them, obviously, I think that's all the crypto equities, right? All right, we are what? How long in are we before we talk about Bitcoin? Pretty good long while. Overall on the Bitcoin, this is still a dominant thought in my head. How much higher do we really go? What's the risk reward up here? Lots of variables because news catalysts are fun like that. I'm just talking about between now and a month from now. What do you think happens? Most people aren't on that time horizon. Most people are on the 2025 time horizon. That's fine. Most people would probably benefit from doing nothing. Most people are going to trade this extremely poorly, let's be honest. I think the most likely thing that happens is we have some sort of reaction to 48 and then max downside maybe 35, something like that. It's going to be extremely hard to trade on the day, I think, and you just have to kind of go with the flow and see what happens. The reason I don't think we go higher than 48 is because we never have gone higher than the 618 fib of the bear move pre-halving. Maybe this news is enough to push us to 55. I don't know, right? But just have a plan and think about it, or just do nothing, because that's totally fine too. Look at, ask yourself, how would you have traded 2019? Would you have messed up 2019? Ask yourself that. It's got everything, right? It's got a pre-halving move. It's got chop for months. I'm talking months. And then it's got a black swan on top of that, just before halving, right? Like, what would you have done if you weren't here? I was here, and I can tell you what I did. Nothing. Okay, so I did absolutely nothing. I don't even think, I'm trying to think what I did on the day of the down move. I'd have to go back and look at my records. I don't know. I didn't sell, I can tell you that much. But most people will screw this up. So have a plan. Don't be one of those people. Typically, the move happens after halving, right? That's when we get the excitement. Again, back to these people who think every halving's priced in. That's a branch on the decision tree, right? I don't know what's going to actually happen, but that's a consideration. We will pencil that in. That's not been the case historically, but we will pencil that in. Just as I've penciled in, us not exceeding the 618 because we haven't. Doesn't mean it can't happen, just means it hasn't historically happened. So, we'll see what the chart looks like coming into January and into the week of January. Right now, I don't think there's anything screaming that this needs to break down. I think the worst case, there's a candle called a hangman candle. It's got a tiny body and a long wick. I don't think that's bullish at the top of a trend. But what matters isn't necessarily this week's close, it's the week after to confirm this week's close. So if this closes a hangman and then next week we close lower than the body of this week's candle, right? Then that means it's probably bearish. Weekly cloud looks fine. I don't personally think there's a trade screaming at you on the weekly like there was at 28. Looking at the daily, there's always a risk that we mean revert to the Kijun on the daily. That's at 36, just something to think about. What I've really been watching is the 8-hour, because we've captured the trend pretty nicely on the 8-hour. We've had multiple Kijun bounces on the 8-hour at this point. And even on some alts, we're seeing kind of this like pennant type thing where we're kind of getting there to a potential breakout again into the weekend. So it looks okay, right? And the cloud says it's fine to keep going. The alligator fractal stuff is something else to look at. On the 8-hour, what you'd want to see here is the MAs flip bullish cleanly, and you'd want to see a close above 43.4, which would also make sense based on the diagonal. So I think that's a tradable setup in the moment, but everything looks okay, right? Everything looks totally okay on the Bitcoin side. There was a super low time frame Adam and Eve that I didn't want to trade before Powell said anything, just because who knows, we might have been dovish, he might have been dovish, the market might have just said it was bearish. I don't know, right? But I just waited and it went up anyway without me. That's fine. Point is, here now on the low time frames, I don't see anything specifically. You could argue cup and handily type thing. I don't know. Doesn't look terrible. This, I think, was the Ledger stuff where we maybe sold off on the hack news. I don't know. Anyway, looks fine. I don't think there's anything screaming at you. ETH, I'm kind of sick of looking at, to be honest. There's nothing to do here. I think you buy anything below 2,000. You sell anything above 3,000. I don't know what else to say. Daily support's at 1950. Weekly cloud resistance is at 2,900. There's a pivot up here. The measured move of the pattern is up here, right? There's tons of reasons why ETH slows down around 3K, probably. Just super, super lagging. There's tons of companies fire sailing their ETH from the bankruptcies, Celsius, FTX, Voyager, right? I think that's definitely one of the reasons why ETH has lagged, but I don't have anything else to really say about ETH. On the, let me just pull it up. The ETH BTC chart, I'm still just as bearish. Again, I have nothing new to say. It's below the 200 week. It's almost below a yearly pivot. Support, below the weekly cloud. No bull div. Targets are pretty low still. Sub 0.04. You've still got flows to consider for the ETF. We're not going to have an ETH ETF first, right? Anyway. That's ETH BTC. The bad news for ETH is that there are a lot more other exciting charts to trade. So, until ETH wakes up from its slumber, there are things like Sol that people are trading, right? Sol, the target is definitely 140 still. I don't think we go straight there. Part of me is like, what do I do with my Sol stack? What do I do at 140? What do I do now with cash, right? Again, just like, what do I do? What do I do? Nothing is totally fine. This looks okay. I don't know if I'd want to buy it up here. I would much rather trade breakouts on low time frames than have to worry about like what the high time frame looks like. Again, I think for most of these charts, the 8 hours is where you want to live, because the cloud has done a really good job at capturing the entries and exits so far. The cloud is still telling you to stay in your trade from 60. There's a potential chart pattern here as well. Another like diagonal, I don't know. Cup and handle, call it whatever you want. I don't care. Do I want to get in this at 80? Not really. But it looks pretty good, right? You can go to low time frames. There's probably like inverted head and shoulders ish. I don't know. It's a mess, right? Doesn't look bearish. Now, if you go to the daily, what you don't want this to morph into is a giant rising wedge with a continuous bear div. We're just starting to get a bear div, so I don't think it's like the end of the world. But there's clearly been a bear div on this most recent high. Support, downside support's at 50. It's kind of just reading chat on the side here. What's up, Gosp? Just call me a loser. I've given up on trading. Look, Amit, if that's your name. A lot of people can't trade, and that's okay. They shouldn't trade. A lot of people trade anyway and lose all their money. A lot of people, a very small percentage, trade, lose money, figure out what they're doing wrong, still continue to lose money, but do a little better. Eventually they hit a point where they start to make money pretty consistently. You know, that takes a lot of time. So you just have to decide what you want to do and how you want to get better. If you're continuously losing money trading, drop the leverage, drop the position size, make fewer trades, go slower generally. You know, if you keep getting liquidated, that's a sign. Drop the leverage, okay? Drop it in half. If you're getting liquidated on 100x, maybe you should drop the leverage, right? Just a suggestion. But yeah, I'd slow everything down. Focus on high time frames. Focus on slam dunk trades. There are plenty of other stuff to trade that isn't crypto even that looks great, right? I talked about SMH. I talked about breakouts on the weekly cloud stuff. Like all this other stuff looks great. You could ignore Sol, Link, same thing, right? Those big moves are kind of done for some of these charts. I still think Link goes to 20 to 30 easy. Zero doubts in my mind, right? But that's not the real question. The real question is, what path does it take, right? Do we go to 8 first and then to 30? Maybe. I've also seen a lot of whales selling Link in this region, this 15 level. What does the VPVR look like? Looks okay. There's clearly a level, you know, a volume spike at 15. So, you know, when I try to force a bunch of low time frame leverage trades on this stuff, no, like why? There's just so many more easier charts that have better setups, right? That's all I'm saying. Matic, Lido, Mina. What's up, Joe? Ro Jogan. We looked at those on the alt video yesterday, but I'll look at that again. Yeah, so Link generally, these look fine. The question is just like, what do you want to sit through on the downside? What is your time horizon? For me, my time horizon is 2025. Like I could care less. Let this thing go to 8. I'll buy more, right? I'm pretty confident that this is going to do okay. Same thing with Aave, right? I have a little bit of Aave. I'm pretty confident that this will be higher in a year from now. Is it going to hit 250? I don't know, but that's a great place to sell, in my opinion. SNX, same thing. Pretty ugly weekly candle. But I would much rather take a spot trade on a chart that looks like this than have to like worry about pinching a stop loss off of 8-hour Sol, you know? Like, why? just trade the spot side, you know? Dot, another one. I don't like any of these blockchains, but yeah, looks okay. It's got a, what is this called? Not a megaphone, but I don't know, what is that? Descending broadening wedge or something into a weekly massive mega cloud. Like, if you're losing money, just slow down, find the setups you like, and just take it slow. That's my unlicensed, non-professional, illegal investment advice. Okay. FBTD asks, Ben Key did it bottom, where is support and resistance? We'll take a look. But broadly, like most of the alt charts kind of look like Total 3. I said this yesterday in the video too, but most of them have ranged for over a year. Most of them are nudging themselves into the weekly cloud. Most of them have a pretty decent 50% mean reversion. These are the charts I would focus on, not the charts that have already moved 80%. You know, AVAX kind of the same thing. It's already moved a ton. Can I keep going? I guess, right? I don't like that weekly candlestick, weekly spinning top into the cloud. I like AVAX closer to 20 than 40, doesn't mean it still won't go to 80, right? You know, it's just a matter of what do you want to sit through? What is your downside? ADA, same thing. I think there's plenty of upside in here in ADA. I like it closer to 50 cents than 60 cents. Looks fine. Matic is pretty heavily range bound in my eyes. I would want to see this above $1. I don't think anybody cares about this unless it's above $1. If you measure this, Adam and Eve, maybe to 2. But I think based on the amount of people asking me about Matic, I think there are a metric crap ton of people who are underwater Matic still. And I think that's going to show up as selling pressure when people start hitting their break-even levels, especially if they're getting FOMO on stuff like AVAX or SOL or ADA or whatever else, right? All those coins have moved up a ton, whereas Matic has moved up, but not as much. So it looks fine, right? Probably has a run. I think it's just tough because there's a lot of volume here, right? There's a level at, if this pops up again, trying to get my VPVR lined up. Come on now. There it is. It's a level at 110. There's a level at 150, right? Pretty big volume levels up there. But it looks fine. You know, looks fine. All right. Benki. I don't even know what this is, bro. Hopefully this is the right ticker. I mean, this is another good thought experiment. Like, what do you think is going to happen on a chart like this? This is a chart. This is the charts like this are the reason why I'm in ETC, for example, right? Some garbage crap coin that broke out on the 3-day cloud, right? I don't care what it is. Helium looks the same, right? We can go to that right now. We go to Helium. Same exact thing. Massive breakout on like a high time frame cloud. So the question for me is, in the here and now, if I missed that trade, do I want to jump into it? I wouldn't. Does it look like it bottomed in the cycle? Sure, looks good. Where is support resistance? So I think the next thing to watch for on any of these charts, what does the consolidation look like up here? You know, do you get an ascending triangle? Do you get head and shoulders? Do you get a descending triangle? Do you get a flag? Do you get a pennant? I think it's too early to tell. Based on this, what is this, 3-day candle? This, anytime you have a long wick on both sides with a tinier body, it's called a spinning top. And it means the buyers and sellers are coming to an equilibrium. You've got people, buying the lows. You've got people selling the highs. Usually that means stalemate, right? It doesn't necessarily mean continuation. Doesn't mean sell-off. In a trend, it typically indicates that you're getting close to the top of the trend in the moment. So I don't think this necessarily is screaming continuation in the moment, right? So it just depends, like, where would you want to sell this? If you bought this at a penny, what was your plan, right? Is your plan to sell this at 10? Then just do nothing, right? What is there to do? I like 5 as a horizontal level. What does the weekly cloud say? Nothing. What does the 50% retracement say? 19. Okay, so there's your levels. 5, 19. So, as a thought experiment, you could take some profit now, take some profit a little bit higher, take some profit a little bit higher, and so on and so forth. But I don't think there's necessarily anything to do on most of these charts. If you're just in it for the move higher, then yeah, I think you're taking maximum profit here. But if you're in it for the cycle, I think you're just waiting. Gosp says, most of my biggest wins came from spot holding. Interesting. Most of my biggest losses came from leveraged or too high leveraged trading. Very interesting observation there, Gosp. Very interesting. Yeah, I mean, I've done very well on leverage and I've done very well on spot, but that took some time to dial that in, okay? That didn't happen instantly overnight. That took 2 or 3 years of losing money pretty consistently on the leverage side to even know what the heck I was doing. All right, where were we? Benki, what else? Oh, ETC, right? So there's nobody that hates this coin more than me. There's nobody that thinks this coin shouldn't exist more than me, okay? But I still bought it. I like the chart. The mean reversion target is high. We'll see what happens at 43, whatever, right? But the point is, if I'm looking for stuff, this is one of the stuff. That's it, you know. For Lido, for ARB, for OP, most of them have the same exact chart, so it becomes a relative value conversation. I would check the airdrops, I would check the flows, I would check the unlocks. OP has this ascending triangle quality to it, so if ETH starts to break out, this should break out. ARB, I guess it doesn't have enough data. Maybe I'm wrong. Let's try, is it not on Binance? For me, anything that's an airdrop, and I love, this is, again, DeFi, I love DeFi. It's great. I love using DeFi. I love the protocols. The coins are a completely different story. If there's anything that's an airdrop, just ask yourself, in general, what are people going to do when you give them a bunch of money? Probably not continue to hold on. Probably. So you've got to kind of fight through that sell pressure, that supply pressure. I don't know if there's any airdrops specifically coming for ARB. You'll have to check. But anyway, this chart just looks ranging sideways to me. I don't really see anything. It doesn't look bearish. What does the cloud say? Looks okay, you know. Had a W double bottom. Would I trade this and hold this? I wouldn't. The same thing with like Lido. I would rather just trade spot ETH than either of these charts. Like these should be higher beta to spot ETH, right? So if you want that like breakout potential and juice, maybe you've got like 75% ETH, 25% Lido, or whatever, right? But these charts look very similar to me. Somebody was asking me about INJ. What a wild chart this is. Absolutely wild. Besides Gosp. Somebody besides Gosp was asking me about INJ. Chart looks really good. It's continued to consolidate, move higher, consolidate, move higher. It's in price discovery, right? So there's no target per se. One thing you can always do, take the all-time high, the previous all-time high, take the local low, put on the fibs, and that would give you a target from 43 to, let's say 45 to 55. Totally reasonable. You can also check, is there a pitchfork here? Probably not. You know, to use as some sort of projection. But I think 45 to 55 is a logical next pause point. If this thing doesn't completely fall apart. RSI is in infinity. It's in Mars. It's so high. It's at 88. Not a bear div. Not a bear div. It's a weak div because it's an equal high, but it's going to be hard to sustain that, right? You just have to be careful. You can always check the yearly fibs as well, and those are all busted on the yearly side, so you can drop that down to the monthly or quarterly even. Quarterly busted through, monthly almost busted through. You know, and that's a sign in and of itself that it's probably getting close to reversal and or just chilling out in the near term. All right, let me catch up with chat. Let me go back here, sorry. LYX? You know, honestly, someone could just throw 3 letters in the chat and it would probably be a coin. We have that many coins now. Again, initially, like, what does this chart look like to you? To me, it looks like inverted head and shoulders. It looks like up and handle. It looks like a pennant thing. Not pennant, but flag. Take the high, take the low. Gives you a target in the 10s region. Sure. Just shoot from the hip, TA-wise. Looks fine. DAR. DA flippin' R. Mines of Dalarnia. Okay. I see you, Mines of Dalarnia. You know, what do I say? I don't know what to say. I always start with fibs, start with the cloud, go up the time frames a little bit. 20 cents? I don't know. It helps to know what's fueling this. You know, if people need this token to do something in the game, if there's some utility aspect that helps understand, is there an influx of users, you know, just super basic stuff like that. I have no idea what the answer to those questions are, but something to think about. I think the most bearish thing you could probably see on this chart would be a rising wedge. You know, something like this. You just have to be careful for. It's not pretty, it's not perfect. But there's pretty clearly a mega bear div on this. So I would just be careful up here personally. Watch always, I'm always watching for this stuff. People love to yell at me and say this goes higher. Sure, it might, but not in my head. It doesn't. In my head, this is always a very bearish reversal signal. 10 times out of 10, I will not touch a chart that looks like this. Even if it goes higher, I'm never upset. Square we kind of talked about earlier, Purple Haze, it's just gone up a lot. It looks great, don't get me wrong, it's just gone up a lot in the past 6 weeks or whatever. So I don't know what to do with that. Interesting, you know, again, I would encourage you, if you have the time, to just do a broad scan of everything, connect the crypto stuff with liquidity, with legacy. These are Bitcoin halvings on the Square chart. They sell Bitcoin on the app. I don't know when they started selling Bitcoin on the app. I don't think it was 2016. Anyway, they sell Bitcoin now. They hold Bitcoin now. The halving's coming up. Should that be bullish or bearish for Square? You tell me. I think it's going to be super bullish. I don't have any stock or anything yet, but I think this chart looks really good for bullish reversal, personally. Band. Great move on Band today. Yeah, because I talked about it in the Delta or the Alpha Beta video. That's why it's up today, obviously. Oh, come on. I was expecting like a 10% candle. I mean, it's up. It's just, you know. Why? The chart doesn't look bad. Don't get me wrong. This looks a lot like ETC, and I have some of that. So I feel you, Mr. Band person. You could probably justify some sort of, you know, diagonal breakout. That's basically what the cloud is telling you anyway. 50% retrace, 12. That's cycle high type stuff. Something that's always fun. Looking at the relative value trade. So would you want to rotate into band and out of link here? You never know what you're going to find, right? That's why it's worth just looking, just having some fun. Just painting some happy trees on the chart here. I'm trying to find the arc. So this to me looks like a parabolic curve that has ended. So this favors band over link here from a relative value perspective. Anyway, something to think about, this intra-sector relative value question. Yeah, Aave looks good but needs time. I agree. 2025 end of crypto cycle. Yeah, it's probably going to be somewhere in there. What is it, like a year after halving? Usually is the top, plus or minus a quarter, you know? Comp. That's one no one's asked me about in a long time. Guess I can get rid of that. I mean, it's really been pretty uneventful and volatile down here, huh? I think there was some real world asset thing with this, right? I don't hate it. Honestly, I don't hate it. It definitely looks like it put in its dues down here in the sense that it's consolidated. I don't hate it as a chart. I don't hate it. Here becomes, again, the relative value question. What looks better to you in the near term versus the long term? Comp, SNX, Aave. You can just say, I love comp. That's fine. But something to think about would be the intra DeFi sector relative value curve is another one that people keep asking me about, which tells me there's a lot of people underwater. On curve, this doesn't look awful, I guess. You've got those OTC orders or those OTC buyers at 40 cents. Where are they going to sell? Are they going to sell at 80? Do they have an unlock specificity with time? I don't think they do. It's just something to think about. But, you know, if it's above the 3-day cloud, sure, I don't hate it. It isn't yet, but it looks like it's trying to. Chart is a massive mess. I don't know where this goes in a bull market. Maybe to 350. Collectively, all this stuff has a shot, right? I don't think you can discount anything. What coins do I like the most from the fundamental perspective? Bitcoin, and that's pretty much it. Monero's great, but you can't audit the supply and you can't really buy it in many places. So that hurts its price discovery. And if the price is flat, that hurts people entering the ecosystem, people getting curious about it. You know, that's one thing that Bitcoin has benefited from. The bigger it gets, the more people can actually buy it without causing a massive reaction in price. Bonk, Doge, hold on, what did that say? The Bonk, Doge, Shiba millionaires are spot holders and not traders. This is true. How is that guy doing anyway? Is he still down super bad? The Doge guy? There's this, for those who don't know, there's a Doge millionaire. This is another chart that, look, I would rather buy this and hold it for a year than worry about squeezing out another 20% in Sol, you know? I don't think Doge is worth anything. but the market does. The market thinks Doge is a coin. It does it go back to 40 cents? Maybe. Looks good. Looks good on the cloud. It's trying to bottom. Doesn't look horrible, right? Like, would I be rotating? Here's a great thought experiment. Would I be rotating my bonk profits into Doge? I would say yes, personally. I do not understand what's holding this thing up other than pure retail FOMO. I think a lot of people are going to lose a lot of money thinking that this thing is going to go to infinity. I would be careful, personally. But don't listen to me. I didn't buy any. This is another one that the daily RSI, if there's no TA, there's always something oscillator-wise, and the daily RSI is continuously weakening up here. Obviously, you can look at volume as well. No volume on this. Great. Let me find. Coinbase just listed it. Another reason to never touch it again. Is there a... There you go. So you've got declining volume, declining RSI. You've got price appreciation plus 10,000% in under 3 months. I'm just saying, maybe there's other things in the Solana ecosystem to think about. Maybe there's other meme coins to think about. Just something to think about. This is, you know, not in any way, shape, or form something I would jump into here. Just trying to see if there's anything. I think on the cloud it actually looked great, which is insane. But just goes to show you, like, the cloud doesn't care what the chart is. This is the 4 hour. It's had Kijun bounces, TK recrosses, cloud recross, Kumo breakout. Still looks fine. The trend looks fine. And ultimately, until you get a bearish TK cross in the 8 hour, I would just hold this. I wouldn't even think about it. I think it's important to have a trailing stop if you're in from the bottom, but it's a great lesson in, you know, trend. Where would you have bought this? Where would you have sold this? How would you have traded this, right? Just like paper trade this as a thought experiment with anything, any sort of system you want, just to see what you would have done. One of the reasons to not use the fractals as a trailing stop loss system is because they, in things that are super volatile, they don't do the greatest job of keeping you in. But the cloud sure as hell's kept you in. You know, the cloud is telling you on the 8 hour, don't even think about selling this thing. This has never once shown a hint of bearishness on the 8 hour. Yes, Walt, again, correct. Just because I'm bearish on RSI doesn't mean, you know, look, oil, great. This is always my go-to example. If we go to oil on the weekly and we go back to 2015, okay, you can have a bear div forever, okay? There's no guarantee, but this is it's a year-long bear div, I would argue, on RSI. There comes a point for probabilities that's like, look, this probably doesn't keep going forever, right? There was also some sort of falling wedge here. And so let's say we, let's say we're looking for something on bonk or whatever at the top. Right? This is why I don't touch rising wedges with their bear divs for continuation. It's this exact reason, right? And I'm sure there was some fundamental reason why this reversed. I don't care. I'm just saying. Just an interesting thing to think about on the crypto side. Because I agree, you can have a bear div, bull div for a very long time. but this bull div eventually reversed, right? Oil, by the way, I'm pretty sure the US is trying to refill the SPR at these levels, sub 70, around 70. So I don't know how much lower we go price-wise if we're buying to refill the SPR until the SPR is full, or to whatever level they want to get it to. But it's really bullish for markets collectively that oil is calmed down, for sure. Anyway. But yeah, I would be very careful on bonk. You don't know who's holding this. You don't know which whales are buying this. I don't know. I don't know what's driving this other than Solana hype. So I would just be careful. Super careful. But it has been a chart, that's for sure. Has been a chart. Oh, one last thing. You can look at, this is going to be interesting. Again, relative value. Let's look at the meme coin relative value. What other streamer is looking at the relative value of meme coins? Nobody. But this stream right here. So, as a thought experiment, on the Doge Bonk relative meme value, where would you want to buy this? Now, my first argument is always, I don't like buying weakness. Okay. This is exactly why. At any point in this whole down move, right? You're wrong again, you're wrong some more, you're still wrong, you're wrong right now. However, clearly there's a div on this. There's a bull div. So that's one bullish sign. There isn't quite a pattern here just yet. There's probably a channel. Looks like it's ready to make all-time lows again, right? I don't think there's anything here pattern-wise yet, but just another thought experiment to think about. Even if you're not trading this, like how would you trade it? What do you look for? This is clearly a runaway freight train to the downside. Do you wait for an inverted head and shoulders? Do you wait for a falling wedge? You know, just something to think about. Because if the meme stuff does have a rotation, Doge will benefit, undoubtedly. So, something to think about. It would be better for Doge if there was like a Doge bridge on Solana, like a wrapped Doge. I don't think there is, but anyway. Fun chart though. I mean, look at this thing. What a great little trade somebody's going to have rotating into Doge eventually. All right. Yeah, AMAT. Somebody in the Discord, I forget who it is in the Discord, but this is a semiconductor chart. So again, if SMH, the ETF, is bullish, then all of the semiconductor charts should look similar. Looks great. I like it as a cup and handle. I like it as a bullish continuation. And that's it. I'd rather trade this chart than something like EOS, right? It's just because someone asked me about EOS. I do not like weakness personally in a chart. It is trying to break above a falling wedge, which is good. It is trying to break above the 3-day cloud, which is good. You know, if I'm trading ETC, then this is probably also a viable chart option. At some point, it must have said this thing comes down to its all-time low, and it did. That's always a good sign. What else can we say? I don't know. There's so many bag holders in this coin at this point. I would have sold years ago and never thought about it again, but I know there are probably a lot of people holding on to this thing. Just because there's a similar chart. Disney also, funny, right? Funny that Disney and EOS look the same chart-wise to some degree, but similar concept. Cloud, falling wedge. I'd rather wait for the strength to show up on the wedge and on the cloud than to like try to catch a knife. I always think of Zcash, so let's pull it up. Poloniex? I don't know what happened on Polo that all their charts go to 0. Zcash, what can we say? Kind of the same thing as EOS, right? Pop on the halving cycles, and what do you see? This chart does better post Bitcoin halving historically. Not something I would buy and hold. Maybe it has move in it. I don't know. What else we got? NXRA. You must be the same person that asked me to look at it in the video. Part of the power of like recognizing chart patterns is just pattern matching in any stage of whatever any price is in, you know? So clearly this thing had some sort of consolidation at the bottom and it's moving up. That's about as best as I can do. Looks fine. You know, I don't know. Anytime you have a range, you can always measure the fibs. We're about there on the fibs. Does this reconsolidate and go again? Don't know. Looks okay. What else we got? Thanks, Joey. Yeah, hit that like button if you're still here, or don't. Whatever you want to do, that's up to you. That's right, Builder. We traveled down the rabbit hole farther than anybody could travel. Just because we can, right? Treat RSI at 50 as the cooldown. I would agree. What else we got here? Too much time in between the peaks is invalid. Yeah, but you know, I'd always say go to a higher time frame. You'll get pretty quick peaks at that point. 12-hour cloud on SNX has been the schematic. Let's take a look. I love a good schematic. Yeah. I mean, one of the reasons months ago I kept drawing all these downward descending triangles is to kind of figure out, like, are these things going to go lower? Some of them did, right? Uni briefly did. Just briefly, right? It bounced though, but it did briefly go lower. Collectively, it's hard to find a bearish chart. There's an Adam and Eve here, pretty clearly on Uni. It's a pretty clear, massive move here, edge to edge. I don't know. I don't like the coin because I don't think there's a reason to hold it. That's just me. But the chart doesn't look bad. And then all of DeFi has this massive regulatory risk that you have to think about. They're definitely, in the US anyway, trying to come for DeFi for sure. Do you ever buy coins that other YouTubers suggest? No, I don't really watch other YouTube crypto people, to be honest. Yeah, Vet. Are you the same guy asking me? You must be, because no one's asking me about this. No one's asking me about this for years. Most people probably have no clue what this coin even is. You know, again, it kind of just shows you that it doesn't really matter what this stuff is. If it's listed on an exchange, it's got a chance. Very similar to 2021, right? I actually think Bitfinex has more. No, it doesn't. Anyway, going into the halving in 2020, you had a similar situation, right? You're kind of seeing that here. So yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything to do. If you think this is your coin, here's what I would do. I would have an order for 50% of the stack at 14 cents, and then I would forget about it until 2025. That's what I would do. I'm not here to trade alts 20%, you know. Like if I'm going to take the risk on this coin, I want some crazy percentage move. Asia supply chain. Is that what it is? When do alts outperform? They usually outperform after halving. You can look at total 2, total 3 for that. Total 2 has more data to support that. 2017 was wild for alts. 2020 was wild for alts. And total 2 kind of, again, shaping up for a pretty good move on alts. So we'll see. Looks good, though. Looks good. All right, Anchor. Yeah, I mean, for the most part, all these charts kind of look almost identical. Different flavors of consolidation, different flavors of taking a beating for 2 years, different flavors of edge to edge on the weekly. You know, this chart looks identical to Atom to me. You know, looks exactly the same. The chart trade on this chart is exactly the same. The level is right there. Does it hit that level? I don't know. But at least I know what to do, you know. Need them trading gloves for how deep we're down that rabbit hole. That's right. Got to keep the hands warm. What else is in chat here? If you guys want anything else in the last final minutes here, just let me know. How do I put a trailing stop on an on-chain trade? That is a great question. I don't think any DEX has that. You would have to do that through an API, is my guess. You know, like let's say I wanted a trailing stop loss on the 12-hour fractal or something for Bitcoin. Anything that involves moving a bid or ask would require some sort of permission to do. So that's going to require probably human intervention, unless there's some API you can finagle. But then you risk that like attack surface of editing your orders. But it can be done. I wouldn't mess around with that for on-chain stuff. Meme coins are an institutional asset, says Gosp. Well, that is a take. That is a take. Just catching up here. Thanks for coming, everybody. Hit the like for Josh with hat. Yeah. Does the FOMC thing affect small coins? I mean, it affects everything. If S&P is risk, NASDAQ is risk, Bitcoin is risk, altcoins are risk, ultra low cap gems are the biggest of risks, right? So down the risk spectrum, that stuff is typically most reactionary to liquidity, to the Fed, stimmies, right? Just think back to what happened when they gave everybody a bunch of money. Altcoins went crazy. Jito, Aptos. Yes, we will look at those. Price alerts work as well, Joey's saying, for TradingView. Somebody said not their real name. I feel like I'm part of a secret premium club. Same. Yeah, Kraken said they were adding trailing stops soonish. I don't know if those are live yet or not, but they should be close to live. All right, let's look at Jito and Juno. Sorry, Jito and Aptos. Filecoin. Melon. Ren. Sorry. Okay. All right. Jito. Jito's an airdrop, so I'd use that airdrop mentality. Who's trading it? How much do they have? What are the flows like? Who are the buyers here? Those are all non-TA questions, but things to think about. I don't know. Like, it's an airdrop. Again, I expect everybody to sell it instantly. This will do well because it's listed and it's a coin and it's on Solana and there's a massive wealth effect on everything, right? Would I want to buy and hold or hold on to an airdrop that everybody got? I wouldn't, but you know, maybe this is an inverted head and shoulders. I don't know. I think it's way too early to tell what exactly this is. But I would try to get your hands on how much of the airdrop has been claimed and where that is going. It is listed on Coinbase, so that's kind of the bearish case. They typically list stuff at the top. Filecoin. Filecoin. What is this? What do I have on here? Look at that. Look at my notes. Look at me. How good am I? E to E trigger. Things get interesting zone. Same read. It looks okay, right? It looks like almost every other chart we've looked at. It's down a ton. Filecoin's another one you got to be careful with the emissions. I think they have some sort of burn mechanism. I don't know. But the technicals look okay, right? You almost have a weekly edge to edge. Does this get to 50, 60? I don't know. Looks good though. Looks good on the bottom. Ren. Ren is a coin that, if the government had its way, would be one of the first to be deemed illegal. It's basically an on-chain laundromat. That isn't to say it isn't good at what it does, but just keep that in mind. Yeah, I mean, it looks okay, right? Looks like every other chain or every other chart. Trying to bottom, kind of has this like downward channel, downward wedgie thing. Looks okay. I don't think it's like screaming at me, but it looks okay. Melon. Oof. Looks okay. Another super great DeFi protocol. Allows for tokenized hedge funds effectively. Love the protocol, but the coin, I don't know why you'd buy and hold this personally. Looks okay. I don't really have anything to say about it. Still looks pretty bearish. With some of this stuff, this lower cap stuff, you just don't know who the whales are. Who is the dev team holding a bunch waiting to sell? You know, it's just more of those type questions that are harder to answer. You just have to be careful. Is this a real coin? Farm? No, it's... Oh, wait. Farm. Okay. It's on Coinbase. Yeah, again, these charts kind of look all the same, right? Trying to bottom. I would just go through a list of stuff you like and then decide on allocations from there, if that's what you're doing on these charts. Not you, Phil, but just generally for people. There's so many options. So many options. So many options. Okay, what else? I thought there was more. Is that it? Tau, please. No pit stop. Hey, these coins and you people, man. And you always thinking of something new. I think because I'm not on these exchanges, like I'm not exposed to these other coins. I mean, is this a Ponzi? What is this? Who are you? 888. What is this? Tell us what this is, because I have no idea. This looks like some sort of buy and burn mechanism. Just because it's up only. I don't know. I'd be super careful with anything that looks like this. Unless it's, is it AI? What is it? I don't even know. I have no idea. It looks great. Don't get me wrong. Oh, it's AI. Okay. I mean, it looks great. I'm sure render probably looks fine. That's another one close to all-time high. Sure. I wouldn't buy it up here, but it looks fine. You got melon from me last cycle. Yeah, I like the protocol enzyme, but the token hasn't panned out. What else we got? Two more, then we're out. Two more, then we're out. As we go down dumpster diving like trash pandas. Man, I gotta take a shower after the coins that you guys are listing off here. Oh my god. All right, what is this? What in the... I mean, the chart looks great, right? The chart looks... Okay, let me rephrase that. The chart looks great if you've held it since November. Now, if you've held it since 2022, you're crying a little bit. My top 5 holdings: Bitcoin, 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 Bitcoin. There you go. A little bit of ETH, mostly Bitcoin. Looks good. Looks like it's trying to reconsolidate. You know, we were talking about, what was that chart earlier? I'm blanking. But, you know, this is the type of thing you'd want to see. Reconsolidation, pennant, right? This was some sort of ascending triangle, or probably inverted head and shoulders on the lower time frames. Okay, ascending triangle, right? Great. Continuation, perfect. What is this up here? This is more of an kind of an equilateral triangle, so it's kind of more 50-50. I would see how this reacts on the, I guess, 6 hour, 4 hour cloud. It's still trying to make up its mind, right? It's not, doesn't have a bullish bias quite like an ascending triangle does. You could also argue Adam and Eve there. So looks like it wants a continuation from that regard. And then from there you could just, you know, measure the depth of the pattern projected forward. 28 to 32 would be the next level I would watch. But this thing's already moved over 1,000, almost 2,000%. So yeah, I'd be careful. What was the other one? Fat Dole. All right, we'll speed run the last couple here. Some more AI. Yeah, I mean, like, my question for the people asking me is, like, what do you plan on doing here? If there's a true AI narrative, like, these could just keep going. Like, nothing says that these need to stop. So, I don't know. Like, they look fine. You know, again, the same thing. Is there a rising wedge? Is there a bear div? There has been a bear div. It's trying to cancel the bear div. What is the 50% retracement? We're pretty much there, right? From high to low. Would I be letting some go up here? Absolutely. Would I be holding some and forgetting about it for a year? Absolutely. But that just depends where you bought it. Ape. Ape. I saw somebody was holding $10 million worth of Ape on chain. 10 million. I don't know how these people sleep at night. I think I would, I'd go nuts. That's a wild amount of meme shitcoins to hold. Looks good. Looks good on the daily cloud. But, you know, these coins could go to zero for really no reason at all, or just have a down wick, just destroy you, right? It's not for me. Absolutely not for me. All right, last one. Yeah, 50% fib on FET, like I said, pretty much there. Dole and Mina, that's it, and we're out. We're done. Then I gotta go take a deep scrub, deep clean. Dole, is this even a chart? I don't think this is a chart. I got played. I got played by chat. Not real. 404, not found. Mina. Yeah, I think I looked at this one yesterday. It looks good, right? It's above the 3-day cloud. It's, you know, anything that looks remotely like this has a chance. It's trying to break up. Dole is a TSX stock. Okay, that helps. Oh, Dollarama. Sorry, you said that. I was not played. I just wasn't paying attention. Wow. Is this like a Canadian Dollar General? Is that what this is? I feel like it's got to be that, right? You're welcome, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Okay. Does it have a div? I don't see a div on the weekly. Certainly had a div on the daily. I don't know. I have no idea what to do with this here. Pretty ugly weekly candle. I don't know. I mean, the cloud's telling you there's support at 88, but at the same time, this has been in an uptrend for 4 years. Like, what do the fractals tell you? So there's a trailing stop loss fractal at 84. There's a cloud, the Kijun's at 88 on the weekly. I don't know. Daily's angry. Daily does not like this, but it's been wrong before. What about the monthly? That was a crazy chart, by the way. What does last one? What does Dollar General look like? I'm curious. Is that even? What is the ticker for that? DG. Yuck. So the Canadian Dollar General has held up, whereas this has not. So I don't know. I don't think it looks super bearish. It's just been on a non-stop tear. So I like 84 as a stop loss. It's about as best I could do, but it looks pretty good. Doesn't look terrible, right? There's no div. You know, you could argue at the very tippy top you had a bear div, but it looks okay. Looks okay. All right. I'm going to go walk around, get some circulation. Thanks for hanging out, everybody. Like, dislike, all that fun stuff. And we'll see you hopefully tomorrow for a podcast with Brian. Sunday for a little setup Sunday-rooney. But everything looks generally okay. Bitcoin hanging out at 43.